Pre-AP Calculus, at Note 7.3, we are trying to classify functions, exponential functions, as growth or decay. If the graph, as you go from left to right, is exponential and it grows up, it's exponential growth. If you have an exponential graph and from left to right it goes down, it's going to be exponential decay. Parent graph, which has no reflections, has growth. If the graph has two reflections, a vertical one and a horizontal one, then it's also going to be growth. If it has one reflection, be that horizontal or vertical, it's going to be exponential decay. Let's look at some examples. First of all, we got to make sure that the b value is it bigger than 1. If it isn't, you need to reciprocate it, change the sign of the exponent. So we reciprocate 2/3 to 3/2 and change the sign of the exponents. We're going to have a positive coefficient for x, so that's great. How many reflections do we have for this equation? We just have this vertical one. So normally, the sketch exponential function looks like this. Since we have a vertical reflection, it's going to be below the horizontal asymptote. And the horizontal asymptote is going to be at y=3 because that's what k is. As we can see, this is going to be decay. We knew that coming into it, if we believe what we set up here, because it has one reflection. One reflection's decay. Looking at number 2, remember, we want the coefficient of x to be positive. So if we factor a -1 out of the exponent, we're going to get this. How many reflections does it have? 1, 2. According to our little table above, we expect this to be growth. If you do both of those reflections, so the graph is normally like this, a vertical reflection is like this, and then a horizontal reflection is what you see here. The reason this horizontal asymptote's y is 2 because the k value is 2. Looking at number 3, the b value here is no good. Coefficient of x is also no good. We can fix that by reciprocating this and changing the sign of the exponent. This has uno reflection. And that's going to be a very similar graph to the first one that we had drawn there. It's growing away from the horizontal asymptote as it goes to the right. And it's growing down because it's below it. Give us exponential decay for this. Decay just means that it's going down as you go to the right. Growth means it's going up as you go to the right. Determine if the following functions are examples of exponential growth or decay. State the reason that leads to your conclusion. Also state the equation of the horizontal asymptotes for each function. So we got lots to do. We are supposed to determine if it's growth or decay. We're supposed to give a reason. And we're also supposed to state the equation of the horizontal asymptote. Tell you what, I'm going to do the horizontal asymptote first for each of these. It's going to be the easiest thing to do. Here, k is 3. We're going to call that the constant. F of x has a constant of 3. Therefore, there's a horizontal asymptote at y=3. This next one is g of x. It has a constant at -2. Therefore, it has a horizontal asymptote at y=-2. And h has a constant at 3, so it has a horizontal asymptote at y=3. So that part's done, stating the horizontal asymptote. All right, so for this first one, determine if it's exponential growth or decay, state your conclusions. What we're gonna, in each case, we gotta figure out, is A bigger than or less than in 0? Is C bigger than or less than in 0? Bigger than or less than. A, which is -1, is less than 0. What's our conclusion? F of x has a vertical reflection. C, which is what you're multiplying by the x here, is greater than 0. Therefore, f of x has no horizontal reflection. What conclusion can we draw from that? F of x has one reflection. If there's an odd number of reflections, it's exponential decay. That is the gist of this. I'd like you to pause the video and see if you can get the correct answers for these. When you unpause, I will have the solution here. There we go. For number 2, 0.25 is 1/4, or you can think of it as 25 hundredths. If you reciprocate that, that's 125ths, which reduces to 4. So A is bigger than 0, C is bigger than 0, no horizontal reflections, growth. This is supposed to be down here, I believe. And for number 3, B is already in good shape. C isn't. The coefficient of x, we factor that out to the front. Vertical reflection, horizontal reflection, 2 reflections, exponential growth. Right, that concludes this part of the notes. We will look at some different types of examples in the next video.